It didn't take much more than a bottle and 2 chairs to make a speakeasy. This is what Daniel Okrent said in his book, Last Call, The Rise and Fall of Prohibition. Today, join us for some stories. Get your own bottle, glass, or mug, and relax. This is Speak Easily, and I'm your host, Krista Stauffer.
Hi, Daric.
Well, hello there.
Hi.
How are you guys?
How are you?
Not bad at all.
That's a cool space that you're in.
It is fun.
Yeah, this is a friend of mine helped build out this room. His name is Jenny, and he, I believe, laser cut all of these little fun guys, and
Really
it's
cool.
Morse code.
Oh, it is.
What does it
Do
say?
you know what it say?
I have no idea what it says. I wish I did.
You've got to find out.
It's actually trydesigngroup.com. That's who made it. So shout out to trydesigngroup.com.
Nice.
Maybe it's like winning lottery numbers. You could be missing out. Big time.
I'm totally missing out. I bet it's telling me all of the loaded secrets of the world, you know?
Yeah, you might have the answer to COVID back there, Daric.
Right there. It's right here.
It's a weird
right here.
thing to just put in Morse code on a wall, though. I don't know.
I think that's actually one of the cool things about the space is that, you know, it's completely different than anything that you would have seen in any other place. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
you hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, you're
You're
good.
fine.
You're good.
Yeah.
I was just explaining to Ben, and this is, you'll know quickly how classy this podcast is, that I have to stop drinking seltzer water while I'm recording.
Why?
The burps are pretty intense.
Of course.
So if you see me clicking mute really quick and going, that's what's happening.
That's okay. I've got coffee, so you know, like I don't have the burps yet, but you know, it's always a possibility.
They're coming. You know, I love beverages that do things to the body. They are outstanding.
I'm sure, you know, as we get older, we all have proclivities, right?
You know, here's a weird question. When did you start drinking coffee? How old were you?
25.
Wow.
What was the decision there?
I was teaching at Columbus College of Art and Design, and I was grading tons and tons of like design work, and I was teaching anatomy for the artist.
Oh.
And
I thought just like anatomy in general.
well, it was. I mean, I was teaching the Latin terms for the muscles and the circulatory system, and you know, all of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And we did these overlays of like muscles and skeletal systems, and I had stacks and stacks and stacks. And at that point, I was kind of trying to find new places to work from, and Stoff's is right around the corner from where I live, so that was an easy fit there. And of course, you start with the candy drinks, the huge ice lattes and caramel and stuff. And after a couple months of really denting my wallet pretty hardcore, I was like, I can't really do that anymore. So it turned into just regular coffee. So
Switch
Okay,
to
so
the
how
hard
do
stuff
you-
at that point.
yeah.
How do you take it now? What's your color preference?
Cream and sugar. It's a simple. I'm not a black coffee drinker. I don't think I will ever be a black coffee drinker, but cream and sugar.
Same. I can, but I'd rather have cream and sugar in it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm still quite reactive to caffeine, so I think like the bitter taste is something I enjoy, but not to the level of like tar, you know. Of course, like my mom loves like the blacker the tar based coffee, the better, you know. So
Coffee you can chew. Yeah.
yeah, it pours out like a sludge, you know.
Yeah.
No, I can't do. Honestly, Starbucks is a bit much for me.
Oh yeah, I mean I love Starbucks. That's a growing taste for sure, you know.
And I just discovered that their blonde roast, they don't have on tap. Is that the right word? Clearly,
Correct. Yeah.
have more alcohol than Starbucks, but like they have to do the pour over now. So I've gotten really good at pissing everybody off in the drive-thru line because they don't have any coffee ready. And every
Oh
time
yeah.
I'm sorry. You know. Like,
3 or 4 minutes of pour overs before they get to your like, you know, drink, you know.
to my blonde roast.
Yes. Although the lighter the roast of the coffee, the more caffeine is in it.
Maybe that's why I like it.
It's counterintuitive, but the extraction process for the bean most of the caffeine happens right away during the extraction. So
I did
when
not know
you roast the bean longer, you're roasting out the oils and the caffeine, and you're creating a more caramelized and carbon-based thing. So counterintuitively, the lighter the roast, the more caffeine.
Worth
Damn.
wait.
And the most caffeine is usually in like an iced coffee because it's brewed for a long period of time. It's cold brewed, and so like a cold brew coffee has way more caffeine in it than a regular coffee does. That's what this says.
That's exactly what that says. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. See, now we don't have the winning lottery numbers or answers to COVID, but we know the caffeine element.
I'm moving
Again,
my.
it is a weird thing to have back there on a wall in Morse code, but I mean, I'll roll with it.
It's I think
weird
it's
anymore.
yeah. I think this is kind of like a nod to the telephone. You know, before it was just vocals, it was Morse
Dots
code.
and dashes.
Dots
Yeah.
and dashes.
It reminds me of the exhibit at COSI. I don't think it's called Streets of Yesteryear anymore, but the Progress. Again,
Yeah, progress.
I worked there. Oops. But yeah, in Progress, how they have I think it's a mynah bird that you can make speak using. I don't know if it ever worked, but yeah.
Oh yeah, it's worked. I'm a member there. I've got work there. I've been supported by COSI for years, and it was a childhood dream to kind of like go into partnerships with them. I'm trying to build out a partnership for next year actually too. But yeah, I mean, I remember going to the older location on Broad Street, or was it on Broad Street?
It was Broad Street,
Yeah. And seeing the difference between the two. I'm older than I look, so I do remember those days.
I believe we're all about the same area.
Probably, yeah, I think so.
I mean, I'm 26. Ben's a little bit older at 27. So you'd probably be, what, 25, 24, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Did you?
Totally.
Yeah, I can't do that much longer because my kids keep getting older. So it's not working as well. And just sounding more disgusting. Anyhow, I digress. Did you grow up in Columbus?
No, I grew up in a small little village called Anna, Ohio.
Okay.
It's literally a village. It's less than 2,000 people.
Oh, wow.
It's west and a little bit north. So I usually say northwest, but it's west and then just a tad bit north.
What is it close to? Like, what was your big city hangout?
So this is like a dartboard. All right. So there's nothing near. There is a city of Sydney that is nearby.
Yeah.
Which is about, I think last time I checked was like 20,000 people. But there is no like giant city hangout, like to say, I think Sydney is the same size as like Grandview.
Okay.
But it's not near another city. So
you're in the middle of nowhere in Anna.
Yeah. In fact, there's a Honda plant there. That's, if anyone ever knows about Anna, they know there's a Honda plant there. And you have to cross every Honda plant in Ohio to get from Columbus to Anna. You go up 33 and you hit Marysville.
Yeah.
And then you go from Marysville up to 274. You hit it on Indian Lake. There's a Honda plant there.
Yeah.
And then you keep going and you'll hit Anna. So.
And you're in Anna. Did you guys have like, was it a one stoplight? Were there shops there? Was there stuff? A downtown, bustling Anna downtown? Or anything?
Oh, no. So Sydney is the county seat of Shelby County. That's what county is in. But Anna, it had two stop signs or two stoplights, I think. My graduating class was 56 people, 46 of whom I went to school with. I think 10 went to vocational schools. And we were on the smaller side of the classes. I think the big boom class was 100 students in that grade. So
a lot of kids.
So many.
Anna.
I often joke that I moved in 6th grade. I moved from Sydney, Ohio to Anna, and they were rebuilding the school, and they were building a new elementary school. And for half a year, I joined Anna in a 2-room schoolhouse. It was still, so Anna has a high school, middle school, and elementary school kind of all built in one.
Okay.
They were building a new elementary school at that time. So now it's 30 years old. I mean, hell, it's an old school now, but you know, like at the time,
School. Yeah.
very old school now. But the same high school that my grandpa on my mom's side and my grandpa on my dad's side went to is the same school that my dad went to, and the same school that I went to. And so how farm schools typically worked a long time ago was you'd have these one-room schoolhouses, or as in the 1930s and the 1940s, you'd have little hubs that were like a half a gymnasium,
Yeah.
and shared with the Catholic Church, you know, and we weren't, you know, it wasn't a Catholic school, but it would share with the parking lot, the Catholic Church, and then there was, I think, 4 schoolrooms maybe.
Oh my God.
2 on each floor, and they had like it was 5th and 6th grade, 20 kids per classroom.
Wow.
So when I say grew up in the countryside, I mean it's
You're not
very much country.
What did you do for fun? I mean, there are all.
You're a city girl.
I'm a.
You're a city girl. Called you out right there. It's the question that like both sides. I've lived in Columbus now for 20 years, and when you live in a city, they ask that question about country folk, and then country folk also ask that about city people. It's like, what do you do? You know, there's always this, you know, gatherings at ponds and big, you know, barn party type things that you could do. I think everyone had a McDonald's or a Burger King that they would hang out in the 90s and 80s that just hang out there for a while.
Was sports big? Were people big sporty, football-y? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I figured.
We didn't have football until my senior year, or maybe, my senior year. But basketball and track and cross country were our big things.
Were you an athlete?
I was.
Okay.
Strange enough, as an artist, I also am a rare breed that I lettered in sports.
Yeah. Well-rounded.
I'm 5'6". I played basketball poorly. I played soccer for about 14 years. I ran cross country. I mean, I was okay, but I was never one of the leaders of the pack or anything. And our school actually had gone and won state a few times when I was in high school. So from my understanding, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe one of the guys that we ran with ended up training for the Olympics. And most of them went to school and college under scholarships for running. So I guess by sheer accident, I ended up in cross country. I played basketball. I was a gymnast until I was 16, which was not offered by the school, but I did
like an outside program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to travel in order to do the extracurricular activities.
Totally get it.
But I was in pep band and jazz band, and I mean, geez, we're going back some time here.
Yeah, this is good. We're working our memories. See how stable they are.
Yeah, they're not. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of luxury. One of the rare luxuries of living in a small town was the idea of a clique wasn't really as big as it is, say, here in the city, because the homecoming king and queen were also basketball stars and played in the band, you know, like it crossed platforms quite often because there weren't enough people to move around.
Wow. I'm blown away. Ben and I graduated together. What do we have? 485, something like that.
Yeah, it was a huge class. So
that's a big
class. When we started, it was
600.
600 and something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had to they had to rearrange the schedule for our freshman class because there were so many of us. They couldn't have us dine with the upperclassmen. So I think we went in at like 9 and went till 3:30, something like that. So it was completely separate.
Yep. Staggered schedule. Yeah, staggered lunches, the whole thing.
How long were your guys' classes?
Oh, gosh. Now you're making us
so long ago.
Well, there's a reason behind asking that, because right at that period, they were when they were trying to switch from like period classes to like a block
system.
Or
I want to say maybe 50 minutes.
Yeah.
That's about right. Yeah,
I want to say maybe 50 minutes. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
I can't imagine teaching a class in 48 minutes, to be honest. Like,
yeah.
A while ago, I was teaching at 2 different colleges, and 4-hour classes was sometimes, seemed like you couldn't get all the information in, and so 48 minutes. You take attendance for 15 of those minutes,
you just don't take attendance, that's all.
Yeah. Not anymore anyway,
Especially in college. It's like.
I didn't have that luxury. Here's the other problem is that when you are a loud individual, as I was, you can't, shut up, Ben. You can't skip. Like, all these people that got the art of skipping class down, I was too obnoxious in class, they would miss me. Not miss me, but they're like, why is it so quiet? Oh, thank God.
Teacher's like, boy, we got a lot done today. What was up with oh, that's why. Where is she?
Yeah. I was the same. I mean, I was also pretty precocious. I'm putting my coffee down. What you're not seeing is I have this baby-sized table that is provided for me to put my laptop on, but it is like that big, and it's not. I don't feel safe with my coffee, so I'm putting this on the floor.
You're fine. I mean, if you just have to go, just go. That's cool. We'll just talk.
I just think it's weird that I'm like doing the whole like, hold on.
Fine.
I was the same. I mean, I was a pretty precocious kid, and I think I would have made way too much noise in a class for anybody to. And plus, with only 56 people in your entire class, you're 1/56th of a person. Actually, 1/46th because 10 of them went to vocational school. So you're a percentage.
So you'd be, I didn't think about that. And if not, they probably know your family well enough to find out where you are immediately.
Oh, yeah. My dad has 10 brothers and sisters. So I have 2 sisters.
Okay.
My younger sister is much younger than I am. So she would have been in elementary school. So it wouldn't have been like, I graduated high school. She was 6 or 7.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe not even that old.
That's a huge age gap.
Yeah, well, my older sister and I are 15 months apart. Okay. So my parents were like, yeah, we're going to wait a little bit and have babysitters on hand before,
Yeah, that's pretty smart.
Play.
They call it, Irish twins or something like that, where you're so close in age.
That's ouch. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not quite the news you want to get with a 3-month-old baby.
Well, I mean, Mom found out right away, and, but that helped. Like, we were in a lot of the same things together. And so whether we liked it or not, we were in school together.
Yeah.
Quite often the same groups and the same classes sometimes.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, so small town, how and when did art begin for you?
Art wasn't really an occupation, and still really isn't. I often joke that we are near Wapakoneta. I don't know if you know where that is, but that's the hometown of Neil Armstrong. That's where he was born. Yeah. There's a really nice gem of a museum there. It's small. It's not like COSI or anything, but dedicated to him. But I often joke that more people know what an astronaut does than what an artist does. So I was going to go into science of some sort. I had been looking into schools for physics. Mm-hmm. I always did pretty well in science, really well in science. And so that was an option. And there was a guy who graduated a couple years ahead of me, and subsequently, maybe the year after, that decided to go to Columbus College of Art and Design. They're more on the commercial side. So I was looking at a bunch of different schools for science and stuff. And since I was rather gifted in the arts, I took it upon myself to kind of look at some of these schools. And my art teacher, really lovely man, but I mean, he's kind of working with as little information about the arts as he can. Just was like, yeah, these other guys have kind of gone to this, maybe it's a commercial school, I'm not sure. So my girlfriend at the time and I went and visited the school, and I got a really large scholarship to go there. And that makes up your mind pretty quickly. You know, you're like, oh, okay, maybe.
Oh, you like it? I'll go. Oh, see, I'll be with you. Yeah, sure.
I mean, I was floored. I mean, I had no idea. I had no idea what I was getting into, for one. So I had always wanted to do art as a career, but I had one of the weird things about being an adult is you can look backwards and go, I had no idea what I was doing. You know, like I had a plan as an adult that was like a very young adult's plan. I'm going to go to the school and become an artist. At that time, I really didn't like a lot of contemporary artwork, which I love now. I hadn't had a lot of exposure to what the job of an artist is. And most people have no idea what an artist does all day long, you know? And so being offered a financial award of some large amount makes you reconsider, like, oh man, yeah, this is a real thing, a real possibility.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate that I had a couple aces up my sleeve at that time that I didn't really realize I had. But yeah, our art wasn't an occupation there. It still really isn't. It's more of design, or, I mean, I don't want to talk badly about the town because I've always liked that sensibility still kind of in me, but ultimately, you know, charging a couple $1,000s for a piece of artwork and offering that as a price tag there is just not doable at the moment, you know. And so navigating my way to a city that understood a little bit more of the depth, and maybe it was more like opening myself to a space and a city that understands way more than I did.
Yeah.
And going, what is this? What is it? What is the career? What does it look like? And I needed a place to learn and grow. And so that's how I kind of found myself in Columbus for a while.
Well, you're actually talking to another CCAD grad who married a CCAD grad. So
Awesome.
I figured you guys would have, it's not me. I don't, no, it's not me. Yeah.
Yep.
So what did you graduate in?
Well, I graduated in 2016. Yeah, you're right. No, 2006. See, I'm paid off. So, you know,
2006.
Yeah, no, 2006. So.
You graduated in 2006?
I sure did. Yep.
So we would have been there. I graduated in 2004.
Okay. Yeah.
Where were you?
I was in media studies, time-based media. It was animation, film. My wife was there as well. We both worked on computer animated films and stuff like that. And
wonderful.
Yeah, graduated in winter, right? Yeah, winter. And so kind of a more non-traditional route through college for both of us, but yeah.
I would have, so in 2005, I would have left to go to get my master's at University of Cincinnati. So I was in Cincinnati for 2 years, and then I was teaching there for a little bit, and then commuting and teaching at CCAD in 2007. So there's a bizarre overlap where we just missed each other by that much.
Yeah,
wow.
And like this, the way the school was built, and I don't know if it's still kind of built this way, but it's it was very much like different areas. Like there was like the more illustration, that sort of thing. There was the graphic and ad design and you know, even photography and videography and that sort of thing was separated out a little bit more. So, you know,
yeah, and they were also preparing for that hybridization at that
Yeah.
time too. So they were kind of changing up the structure a lot. You're talking about a swath of time that they were really changing the way.
It was a very transitionary period for the
Yeah.
school in general, because it was kind of going from that old school. That's what I started at. I started in '98, so I took the very long route through art school. So, yeah, and it was when I started going there, it was still very much the Kanzani way of doing things.
Yeah, the
You know,
Bauhaus,
and-
Kanzani.
Yeah, and just the really hardcore, like 2 years of solid, like art history. Like I still have the book over here because I had to carry the thing around, and it was like that thick and weighed about
Yeah.
25 pounds. So yeah, and a lot of that stuff, and it changed a lot after that. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I mean it's a way that I think higher education has changed a lot. You're talking about a very special time in higher education where whether it's CCAD or any other college, you can take that metric on any school during the last 10, 15 years and say wildly different from the start of that 15-year period to now.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's I mean by nature of just how technology has evolved and everything, how quickly it has too, and
Yeah.
you know, the fact that when I started school, you know, you still needed to carry books with you in general, and you know,
Yeah.
now it's kind of a different thing. You don't really need to have the books if you got a phone or an iPad or a laptop or whatever it is. So, you know,
I was talking to a friend of mine a couple weeks ago, and I would mention the zip drives that we had to use at CCAD, and they had no idea what I was talking about. Like,
yep, yeah, these big zip disks that were it was like 128 megabyte. What was it?
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was 256 megabyte or something like that.
256, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
So 144.
infinite amount of space, but it was nothing, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have Illustrator files now that are that big. You know, 3D rendering files that are like 10 of those.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we shoot 4K video at my studio, so it's like, you know, one 5-minute clip is a couple of gigs worth of footage, and it's like that would be well exceeded one of those discs at this point. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm just dipping my toes in the 4K realm, and my hard drive right away is sucking some serious power down for that.
It's crazy. Like I've gotten to the point where it's like I love 4K and I love shooting in 4K, but I don't love storing it.
Oh yeah,
I'm a lot less precious with my raw materials and everything. Like people are like, you want to come out and shoot a commercial? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll come out. And afterwards, I'm like, okay, so you're good with this, right? I'm just going to delete everything we shot. So
yeah, I mean, storage. I think I have this conversation from time to time about like storage costs. You know, part of like, yeah,
it's
I mean,
insane, and especially if you create a lot, and it's like all of my stuff is digital. I mean, like you do a lot of physical stuff, and that's awesome, you know. But like all of mine is digital, so it's like everything I've ever created has to be stored on a hard drive somewhere, and then you get paranoid because hard drives don't last forever, and you want to upgrade to whatever the next thing is, and next thing you know, you're spending a ton of money on Dropbox and cloud storage, and
I know
hoping the internet doesn't die, you know.
Right,
So-
right. Mine's physical storage, which also costs a pretty penny.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
See, that's why you just be an actor and you do the work and then you let someone else take care of everything afterward. Be like, cool, I'll see you when it's done. Thanks. Bye.
Well, going back to what we were talking about, I once upon a time was in an acting group in high school and middle school and stuff. I was in the musicals in high school and stuff. So
Okay. What did you do?
I was in Oliver. I was in high school. I was the Artful Dodger in
Nice.
Oliver.
That's
I was
a
in-
good role.
Oh, it was. It was wonderful. I was in Bye Bye Birdie.
Okay.
Did a lot of one-act plays, and then I was in this group, the Sock and Buskins. It was like a traveling kind of like amateur acting. The claim to fame, I think Kevin Bacon was a Sock and Buskins like person.
Nice.
But you know how they use like they use anything they can to get some ground traction,
You know what? We still do. That's actors still name drop more than they should.
I'm sure he was like 12 when he was in it or something.
I always laugh when I hear Kevin Bacon, because there is, I don't know if he was a representative or a senator at one point. There was a dude named Kevin Bacon, not the actor.
Right.
But I knew that this person existed, and I mean, it's probably been 10 years now, but somebody was soliciting door to door for Kevin Bacon. And I don't know how upset or pissed off I made the guy, but I just laughed for 10 minutes straight. And just
saying 10
degrees, oh my gosh, Kevin Bacon. Yeah, so I don't think they were super pleased with that. But I think if your name is Kevin Bacon and you're not the Kevin Bacon, you should probably change your name.
Your name is Bacon in general. I think you're in the funny zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have a friend whose last name is Bacon, and he owns it because he knows. There's no way around that.
No. But even with Kevin Bacon, I mean, I don't think about the crunchy, delicious morning food. I think Kevin Bacon, the actor. But when you come around to my door for some senator, then I go to crunchy, delicious breakfast food. I don't know what the change was. I don't know.
I feel like that should be Bacon's new tagline: is crunchy, delicious breakfast food.
I wonder if the senator also gets extra votes just from people who can say they want to say that they voted for Kevin Bacon.
For Bacon, yeah. That slogan writes itself for sure.
Yeah,
vote for Bacon.
You're the voice of vote for Bacon. You could be the audio tagline that comes in. It just seems like it's very fitting.
Not just a crunchy, delicious breakfast food. No.
But he has a good commercial voice.
I do a lot of them. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he's the voice actor.
Yeah. Well, actor, I would say. I read words off a page until I get it right the first time, and then I'm like, yeah, that's good enough. So.
To be fair, so do I. So let's.
Well, but you have to get it right on memory. I don't even have to do that. I just read it on the page. So.
Sometimes.
How do you confront your own voice in audio? Because I can't stand my own voice in audio.
I have listened to my own voice. When I was in high school and middle school, I was a mobile DJ, so I've had cans on and listening to my own voice for my entire life. I'm more comfortable listening to my own voice than right now. I'm not wearing headphones. To me, I don't sound as good right now. I'm not as sharp as I could be. But I'm also fighting a little bit of a cold too. So, but no,
that's
100% used to it. I hate hearing it in commercials that I do, because I do at least 4 commercials a month, and it's always my voice going. It's this month at Byers Airport Subaru, get the all new, whatever.
Yeah.
And when I hear that, I'm like, there it is again. I'd rather have somebody like Krista or somebody who's a different voice other than mine, but I just get tired of hearing it more than anything.
I think it's a matter of knowing that it's your voice and just having to be okay with that.
Yeah, and you learn the peculiarities of your own voice. I have a thing before I do a percussive, a B or an M or something like that, I get a little bit of a beforehand. So if I go Byers, it's a little bit of a Byers beforehand.
Yeah.
And I've learned to kind of try to fight around that as much as I can, but you can't always do it.
But even we teach, I mean, everybody has their little things that they do without realizing it. So I work with high school students often, getting them prepared for college auditions, which theater auditions are a nightmare for children, for seniors going in. I shouldn't call them children; they're more mature than I am. But what I've noticed, let me scoot back here. A lot of my kids will sing, and they'll be singing like this. And I'm like, that sounds great. Are you holding a beach ball? Because they don't even realize that they're singing like this. Or if they do the old fashioned la, and I tell them, okay, so let me know how often in real life you actually do that maneuver. They're like, oh.
Arms out wide. I talk in meetings and stuff like that all the time.
Well, the problem is that I actually do. So that's not really fair. But
I think if you have a flair for the dramatic, your animated, your hands are probably part of your vocabulary as well. So
that is the challenge with them. But I think as far as hearing your own voice or seeing yourself, it's just understanding that this is part of it. But it's also, you have different voices for different people, and that's what I explain to kids. So if you're saying something to a teacher versus something to a friend, it's going to sound very different.
Yeah.
You know, the conversations that you have with different people. So it's like you can attune yourself to, okay, I'm going to turn on my radio voice right now, or my interview voice, or my professional voice, you know.
Yeah.
As opposed
Arnold
to
Schwarzenegger impression, you know, if that
You have
the
one?
situation calls for that, you know.
Do you have an Arnold impression? I've never heard this if you have one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Do you have one?
I do. Yes.
Okay, you can't leave us there.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Well done you for calling it out. That's your own fault.
I know. Now I did it to myself.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What do you want me to say as Arnold Schwarzenegger?
What does Arnold Schwarzenegger say, Benjamin?
I don't know, rubber baby buggy bumpers or something like that. I don't know. I kind of picked it up from like there's an old web video called Arnold's Pizza Shop, where he has this amazing like outgoing voiceover message from like a pizza shop that was supposed to be run by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he puts 9mm bullets on the pizza, and if you want broccoli on the pizza, I'll punch it through your face. 'Cause what the hell is broccoli? And it's amazing. Go look up Arnold's Pizza Shop. I promise you will be happy with it.
Well, I can tell you, I didn't wake up this morning thinking I was going to have a Arnold conversation with Arnold too. So that's good.
I like to bust that out when I'm running game for D&D, and just I had my players fight an Arnold Schwarzenegger flesh golem at one point. He just walked down, he's like, "What are you doing here? I'm going to kill you!" And they're all like, "Holy shit!" So yeah.
What's weird is I've been to like Switzerland, and he's from Austria.
Right.
But I've been to Switzerland, and I did not hear anyone that talked like that. So, but Arnold is a huge friend of Columbus. So I mean, like I've met him a couple of times, and it's just ridiculously nice.
Yeah.
And it like goes against a lot of the things that as growing up as a kid and thinking like,
oh yeah,
what this person
he's
might
smart
be like.
too. He's like crazy smart guy. Yeah.
So smart. Yeah.
And he's Austrian, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Austrian.
Yep.
Yep, it's Austrian. I did not go to Austria though, but I wish I would have.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I wasn't very old, so I'm not going to talk much about it. But my mom is an opera singer, and so she won a competition to study. We lived in Denver at the time, but she won an opera competition to study in Graz at the Graz Institute.
Wow.
I can't remember the name of it. So she was there for 2 months, so we got to visit for a couple of weeks. Again, real young, don't remember. I mean, if we can't go back to high school memories, let's not go back any further.
Yeah.
But no, I hadn't been overseas and hadn't been after that until I went to Kenya about 7 years ago. So we flew through Zurich, which was lovely to see the Alps again. But yeah, but you've gotten to do a lot of traveling though for work, haven't you?
Yeah, I was not a traveler growing up. My family's probably on their way to North Carolina right now, and that's the extent of our traveling. Didn't really grow up doing a lot of traveling. I hadn't been flying a plane until I graduated college.
Wow.
And so I didn't really know much about traveling. And once you see and experience what the world has to offer, I've been bitten by the travel bug, and I've had the very amazing fortune of being part of my job is traveling, and I can use part of the travel for my job, if that makes sense. Like,
Absolutely.
I can find a way to travel and then also use that as my job. And the information that I like, the 18-year-old me would love to know what I'm doing now, but it would have also been a totally different person at 18 versus 38 or whatever, you know. So
Did you say or whatever? Like you don't know how old you are? Is that
I said 38, and the or whatever was like, am I 38? Yes.
Well, if you
get to that range and it's like, how old am I?
Yeah.
40 something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant.
But I had this conversation with Ralph Scott the other day in that this year, if you have a birthday during this year, it doesn't count. So I actually did not turn 40 this year. So I'm still 39, which is cool.
So are you going to celebrate it twice? I mean, that's a weird one to like, okay.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a Leo, so we do everything out of control anyway. So, oh yeah. Oh, there will be several parties. If I miss it next year, watch out.
Mine is on Earth Day, so I always say it's my Earth Day.
But Earth Day, I like that.
And
Is
it's
that
also
May?
April 22nd.
April 22nd. Okay.
It's also on my grandpa's birthday. So growing up, I really didn't have a birthday. I would go to somebody else's birthday, and like my parents would celebrate it. But if my grandpa was a very special man. He was a really cool dude. I went camping and a lot of stuff with him, but he was the only one during that birthday song that would go, and Daric. Like, and every year, it was like, oh, I didn't know it was your birthday. Oh, I'm so sorry. I guess no big deal. It's just a birthday. So.
But that makes me sad. Our family was big on birthdays. Like it was everybody's day it was your day. It's a special day. And I've now put that into my family. My husband's the youngest of 4, and his birthday is January 17th, which I think has been labeled as the most depressing day of the year. Because it's 2.5 weeks after Christmas or after New Year, and all the credit card bills from Christmas have come in, and the weather is usually complete and utter shit. And so it's like, yeah, so he's hated his birthday all the time. But I've made, we've grown to make it a happier thing. But I always feel bad, kids that have birthdays that fall on other days. All the September 11th kids and
like. Oh yeah. Well, everyone that I know has a birthday near or on a holiday, and I have had this conversation yesterday. Birthdays near Thanksgiving. How do you celebrate it? How do you make it special?
Yeah.
If my mom was sitting next to me, she would want me to say how wonderfully well our birthdays were celebrated, because they tried really hard to make that a thing. But I have since learned how birthday some families are. Like birthday month, yeah.
No.
Not really in our family. My older sister is January 14th, so it's right next to the Christmas thing. My younger sister's is August 6th, so it's right before school or during the entry to school. Mine's on Earth Day, so like for a while in elementary school, during the late 80s and early 90s, the rainforest conundrum was a really big thing. So we would have Earth Day parties with cupcakes and stuff. So I would get cupcakes at school on my birthday, but it was like a tree cupcake. But I also love the woods, so my favorite holiday is Arbor Day.
Aw, you're an outdoorsy folk.
I am extremely outdoorsy. I wouldn't say that I'm like bushcrafting my way through the world or anything, but virtually every day I try to spend some time in the woods. It was a product of, I think it was always there. I camped and stuff as a kid and stuff. After moving to the city, about 5 years or so, I realized that I just didn't have nature in my life. And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, I was so busy learning how to be an adult,
right,
that I had kind of forgot about that. And doing a little bit of self-searching, you're like, oh man, I'm missing all the green in the world, and I'm living in this concrete jungle, and it was very different to me. Now Columbus seems like a small town, but I mean, coming from what I described to the city was like going to some mega metropolis. And so after a little while, I started to seek out woods and stuff so I could have that still in my life. And, it's always been very crucial, and knowing when to appreciate it was a very valuable asset to like becoming a little bit more sane in a very crazy world,
So are you a hiker? Are you an observer? Do you sit? Do you meditate? Do you listen to music? I mean, what sort of things do you do in that space? Are you by yourself? Are you with others?
I spend a lot of time by myself, but yeah, I mean, hiking with a friend or two is completely, a loving and interesting experience. I do not bring music with me. So a lot of my artwork is thought about and inspired by my time out in the woods. I am very much like a little kid. I don't stay on the paths very often. I just kind of forage through and hike a lot. I do a lot of hiking, walking, whatever you want to call it, you know.
Moving of the feet forward. Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm climbing a mountain, I'm climbing a mountain. If I'm just going through like a woods and the side of a city park, it's all nurturing to me.
Yeah.
But I pick up sticks. I look at fungus. I squeeze things and touch them and do all the things that you know kids typically do. I never lost that. And I'm a very outgoing person, and I feel like there is a certain group of outgoing people that have this tendency to be, when they're not being extremely outgoing, they're very introverted. And I spend hours a day just thinking. I mean, just staring at stuff. So very often when I'm in the woods, I'm just going to be like sitting, staring, and thinking about stuff, picking up leaves and crunching them. I'm very tactile.
Yeah, obviously.
It's very strange to explain what a weird thing this is, you know, but I also think that it's a very human thing to do that a lot of us just don't do anymore. And I know when I feel bad, it's because I don't have a lot of that time to kind of experience the world like that.
Yeah.
Very tactile learner.
Makes sense. Well,
so
I mean, I think that kind of encapsulates artists in general. You know what I mean? In that we do things that may not be perceived by natural human behavior, but actually are very much natural human behaviors that we've probably been told to grow up and get over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The you're wasting time kind of mentality. And it's
You're
like,
not getting stuff done. You're not turning something in or producing something right there.
Right. Yeah. And I think people who value the outdoors value that aspect, that it's not a waste of time. It has a purpose, and there's a cost that not doing it is also associated. And but like, I grew up outside. We lived in a little wooded lot. I mean, my first job was loosely a lumberjack.
And you're okay.
I'm a lumberjack, and that's okay.
Sorry, I had to do it. Sorry.
Well, so like I grew up with a wood burning fireplace.
Yeah.
We had like small baseboard heating and stuff, but for general purpose in the winter, especially at one of our earlier houses, it was always a wood burning fireplace. So, I mean, I learned how to use a chainsaw. Let's just say an age that's way too young to learn how to use a chainsaw. Not going to get my dad in trouble. And to this day, the only exercise I enjoy doing is splitting wood. And like, that was my, you know, I kind of joke and say that my first job was a lumberjack. Not like Canadian forestry or anything, but before I started working at Bob Evans as a server and a bus boy, before I did that, I cut down trees with my dad.
Yeah.
And we needed the firewood, and other people needed their, you know, a tree that had fallen during the winter or something like that cut down. So there's this close relationship with the woods and wood in general, and the weird dichotomy between when to cut down a tree and when not to, which like, they're in forestry. There are people who cut down trees for a living who are conservationists.
Yeah.
And it's a weird dichotomy.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah, in order to grow a tree to the tallest and best that it can be, you also have to make sure that it has the right setting, the right sunlight, the right fertile ground, and not to starve out the roots from other plants.
Yeah.
Or if you have this really old tree that has a disease and you don't want the tree next to it to get that disease, you have to cut it down to keep the greater good from, being ruined.
Interesting. Yes, I'm a city girl. I'm proving myself more and more throughout this conversation. So.
Well, this is also bizarre too, because like, I've also lived in the city for 20 years, so like I have to be careful from overreach.
No, but it makes so much sense. I was actually talking with Ben before this, was like, I did work at the art museum. I think I told you that. Just as, I showed people where the bathroom was. That was more or less the extent of my arts job. But it's always one of those things that coming at art as an actor, I always feel like, oh, am I missing something? Am I not appreciating this the right way? And Ben, you said something along the lines of like, if you look at art and you feel something, then you're doing it right. Would you agree with that, Daric? Like elaborating on that idea as a...
Oh, of course. Part of the game of being a visual artist is you're leading people to a conclusion that you're hoping they get.
Yeah.
But each person has that endpoint in a different spot. Like, you could get into serious intellectual debates. When is spelling out too much?
Yeah.
And pushing that into more ethereal, it's a color field or something like that. To some people, that turns them off. But to other people, that's what opens the world of arts to them to begin with. And so if they can find an appreciation on any level, then they've earned the right to sit at the table, right? Having said that, part of our job is to articulate to the best that we can what we don't want them to get out of it and what we do. And that don't get out of it is actually a very underrepresented thing.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying something very important and you're playing fast and loose on how someone might perceive it, they might walk away with a completely opposite thought process, and it might make you look, like a monster or something. So, but sure, I think anybody who's spending the time to look at your work is taking time out of their valuable day, and they have earned the right to appreciate it and what makes them feel good. I would say my focus is more on the people who don't spend that time. I'm not going to poke at someone who's taking time out of their day to look at my work, whether to dislike it or to like it.
Yeah.
It's the people who walk right by it, and I'm like, that's more what I would have an issue with.
And you do a lot of different pieces of different natures and lots of different styles. Awesome exhibit. I'm so sad that it's not.
I know.
Terrible timing. COVID.
I know.
We picked a great time to be artists. I'll just go ahead and say that.
Well, you got a lot of information to use, so I guess.
True. As I sit in my theater building with nothing happening, stage is silent. But I loved the idea of lots of different pieces and lots of different works. Tell me the name of the piece with the violin.
So that's Absolute Thread.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Gorgeous. And I think, I think that's what I love about the museum, and CMA does such a great job with this anyway, of how things are laid out, where you can walk by or you can stand. And in the time that I did teach there, we did a couple collaborations with theater and art, which was super cool. They teach you how to look at more than just what do I see, and to really intently dig into it and start to give yourself those questions of, well, what is that? Why is that there? Why is that there? Why is this color prominent? And so it made it feel a lot less threatening in a way.
Yeah.
Or pretentious, maybe is the word that I want to use. It's available to all.
Yeah, Tyler can and worked with it. Yeah, Tyler's great. He worked with a team of people to curate, and in my opinion, he does a great job of curation, and that's its own field.
Yeah.
Maybe you've known this also from being in the arts, but curation is its own form and field of artwork that you can get a whole degree in museum curation, and there's a design to the space and a design to the room, and there's so much like real academics behind why and where to place things that people often don't realize like that's its own field of expertise. And while laying out the show, we were trying to find a place for my robotics piece, and the violin I had dropped off way earlier. And the stand that it's on is the same one they used for the Paganini violin.
Oh my gosh.
And it was such a sweet moment where they were like, "Are you okay with using the stand?" Like a $16 million, I think is the price tag of that violin, was on that stand. I mean, it's fine for my.
All right, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
Paganini's virtuoso violin is housed in the same stand. I mean, but it's weird, right? Like, I appreciate that somebody would even ask me.
Right. Yeah.
If that was okay, but yeah, I mean, thank you. That each one of my pieces has a pretty elaborate story, and a narrative using very little information is kind of how I do things, editing out all that's not necessary to tell a story. And that violin was gifted to me from what is now one of my dearest friends. And it's an old violin. It's from Dresden. It was a family friend gifted, tried to figure out how to fix that violin. And they were like, well, we have this artist who might be able to create something of actual beauty using it that may or may not have the ability to live another life. And that's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
To sit in front of. Yeah. I'm in another country with limited resources, and I have this old, expensive violin sitting in front of me, and I'm like, I have to do something really good, or else I've desecrated this beautiful instrument. And violins are works of art anyway, and luthiers are some massively skilled people, and I would never want to ruin such a precious gift. And give it another life. It's a huge responsibility.
Right. Wow. Okay, so here's my question, especially with your robotics piece, because you had to transport those. How do you do? I mean, I think I would be scared to freaking death.
Oh, I was. Yeah, what a great question. Okay.
I don't want to give you a heart attack, rethinking the whole process. So if this is last pain, I'm not going to bring it up.
No, you segued into something that is actually very valuable. That piece, it took almost a year to make and design, and I wrote a grant before COVID to get materials. I had to build this project in my head as a theory before, and I had to write a materials list on what I needed for this project, which is difficult when it's not like a canvas and paint and 3 brushes. I'm talking like a bolt of this size and dimension, 4 of these types of circuit boards, 2 of these wires, an amplifier, and I had to, in theory, create something that if I didn't get the grant, I wouldn't be able to build unless I really scoured out of my bank account. And I was very fortunate that Greater Columbus Arts Council awarded me a grant for that. And so as I was designing it, I have an SUV, and I've made large. Last year, I had an 18-foot airplane wing that lit up anytime International Space Station was overhead. And part of this building process is something as utilitarian as figuring out how to build it in parts that will fit in my SUV. So I designed that robotic piece, the Circadian machine, in a 3D rendering software program, and using parametric mathematical design principles, I was able to grow and shrink that design to fit literally into like the maximum space in my truck.
Oh, wow.
And the design principles were strange because you're using like, if I turn it sideways, will it fit through my door? How many is the minimum amount of bolts do I need to take this apart in order to fit in the back of my SUV? So I built it in 2 halves. The crown of it is small, and the base of it is like 2 inches shy of the top of my SUV. So I have to take the crown of it off and then put the base in, and then put the crown in on the side. And I think it's 12 volts is the minimum number I could figure to take this thing apart, put it back together. But it's also a very it's a fragile, scratchable material.
Yeah.
It's a mirrored surface, so any of the viewers are listening, it's a geometric pod that is mirrored on the inside and outside. And because it's bolted together and it's using a metal hardware, it's a rigid it's pretty robust in its build.
Yeah.
But it's also made with mirrored plexiglass. So imagine a CD and how easy it is to scratch a CD. It's a giant 24-sided CD, you know. So that was kind of the thing. And then also the electronics, you know. In Ohio, it rains all the time, and the show was originally supposed to go up during the summer, and it ended up going up now. So it was raining the day that I had to load it up, and so it's. But those are challenges I'm willing to take on, because what a fortunate thing that I could have a show at a museum, like.
Yeah.
Part of the job, right?
So for that project, you built all the individual components, you programmed the whole thing with the lights and everything, and I mean that's an insane level of like both left and right brainedness, which I know isn't actually a thing, but still, like I don't do math. Like math is not something that fits in my head. So
oh my gosh, there's so much math in this thing. You're right. No, yeah. I mean, you're right. And there's 50 pages of code. There's 50 pages of code that I wrote. And
that's a lot of code too. That's a lot of code.
It is. It took more time to write the code than the build by a substantial amount. And, you know, it's like any form of artwork. You look back at it and you can go, oh man, I could have done that better, right? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when do you stop? You know. And at some point,
Delivery
sitting
date.
in a museum. You know?
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty good answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I would answer that by saying, like I said, I was going to go into science, and I've been building like electronic stuff since I was a kid. But we've been very fortunate in the last 10 years that the cost of actual robotic stuff, as opposed to just like crap that you take apart from, you know, a coffee maker or something and piece together, which is kind of what I did for many years. Actual microcontrollers and robotics parts are reasonably priced, and the community of open source codes helps anyone who wants to learn. I truly believe that if you wanted to do this, it really just takes an insane amount of concentration and dedication. But I do think anyone can learn how to do the bare bones stuff on these things because they're teaching them in schools now. I mean, I would love to say that it's a special skill that I have that nobody else does, but 2 of my cousins were telling me that they were learning through a very game-based interface how to code and program and the languages that I'm programming in. Yeah. And so my hope is that I look like a total idiot in 10 years because some kid out there who took a, you know, Minecraft game apart and put it back together knows way more than I do. And that's success to me. You know, like that would be, we have learned. I just want more people to realize how closely connected arts and sciences really are, And for whatever reason, I'm not part of this conversation, but for whatever reason in elementary schools and high schools, the STEM versus STEAM conversation is a hotly debated thing.
Oh yeah.
I've never understood that. To me, I'm like, you have to learn how to problem solve. So I have the exact amount of like grunt in me when I hear science and arts aren't connecting from both sides of the platform. You know, if someone who's an engineer is like, oh, art's is such a frivolous thing, you and I would already have that built-in knee jerk. But I would say the exact same thing when I hear the arts community talk about how they don't need to do any of these critical thinking using that kind of the mindset. Simply because I can tell you it's helped me out doing my taxes or, you know, negotiating a contract with someone who has so much more clout than I'm bringing to the table and who's expecting that they're just talking to quote unquote an artist.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, you will never win that one with me. As soon as you put me in those air quotes, I will come to the table with a totally different person. You'll see the full wrath of intellectual property there.
Good. That's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be. Yeah. Well, and getting, you know, so much conversation has come up, especially in this time of COVID, and I'm sure that you guys have experienced this as well, of like, how much do I have to pay you for your craft, and how much can I just get from you?
Oh
Can
yeah.
I get away with paying? How little can I get away with paying?
Right.
Yeah. Often we get that question is like, I really like this. What's the bargain price?
No.
And so
No, it's
yeah.
not.
Yeah, and I understand where they're coming from. You know, art is not a career that I ever joined to make a ton of money in, you know, and I would never preach the idea that I make a ton of money, but I don't do it for that. I do it because I love the idea making and I love the process. It's a job that I enjoy, and as long as I can, I'm going to make money doing a job that I enjoy. And so part of that unique cycle of this career is that you're the creator of the material, you're the marketer of the material, you're the executor of the material, and then you're the sole reason that that material is either a success or a failure.
Yeah.
You know, and if I go into a regular job, they give me tasks to complete that benefits, and that's a reasonable way to make a living. You have a paycheck that's very constant, and you have a lot of securities. But as an advocate for the arts, which, you know, I'm a strong advocate for the arts, I like to tell people that the way that you make a living at the arts is to ask reasonably priced costs for your work, because you can't sustain a lifestyle using bargaining all the time. And it's also, we live in a very sales bloated economy where if you teach people that everything's on sale all the time, they will expect only sale costs, and that is your new level, that's your new cost. And when it's such a luxurious thing to even have that conversation, because if you're starving and you need food, or if you need to pay your rent, it's very difficult to belly up to the table with a big fat no and say that's not a reasonable price. And so there's a delicate balance in a ballet that you have to both appreciate where they're coming from, but also appreciate where you're coming from. You know?
And I think that I don't want to speak for everybody. You know, actors in Columbus make so much money as well. But the idea of not, you know, what can I do that will fulfill me but still make money, and how many no's do I have to tell you in order to make that happen for me, or how long do I have to sit without working, because it's not okay, it's not enough. How do you place value on your pieces?
Monetary value or intrinsic value?
Yeah.
So I actually have on my website, daricgill.com, I have an artist resource section, and it's, you know, articles that I write, that I do a lot of research in, that are basically how to become an artist and a professional out there.
Yeah.
And they're ever changing. That list gets added to, and of course, there's plenty of topics during the COVID time that will be coming up. One of them is how to price your artwork. And I wouldn't say that I am the end all say all. I think it's a utility belt that you need to gain information from different resources. But I have a whole series on how to price your work, and the kind of initial response is there's no one equation that's going to get you to the right price. Because as many different ways to make arts, there's also that many types of artists.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're making a small object that is repeatable, you can work on a combination of hourly wage versus material costs, right? But if you're making an installation piece that might not be like purchasable and doesn't match my couch way, you have to have a different kind of rubric to follow.
Yeah.
So how much does the materials cost? Part of this. Okay, so we're building a platform of things you need to think about before you get to the cost and afterwards, right? So materials cost needs to always be there. Even if you get the material for free, how do you, if someone wanted to replicate that, build it again, if it breaks, insurance value, you need to know how much would that cost if you needed to do that again,
Yeah.
right? And that could be something as simple as replacing paint that was given to you for free that you will have to purchase again, or like this airplane that I came by. That's not something I can just go to the grocery store and buy.
Oh, come on. Sure you could.
Yeah, foldable 3-part airplane.
Yeah. It's everywhere you want to be.
And then there's also what level are you?
Yeah.
Why it doesn't always work to do an hourly wage is because if you're a beginner at something, it will take you longer to do something. And so if it's taking you 40 hours to make something and you're charging 40 hours worth of work, but a professional who's been doing it for 10, 15 years can do it in 20 minutes, there's a question mark. So this is a balancing act. You kind of pull from both sides, right?
Okay.
Also, if you're a beginner and you're using gold, you're probably going to waste a lot of gold.
Yeah.
Then there's what the market can bear in your area and what is your region that you're selling in. So with the internet, this is a very interesting question. If I'm selling work at a gallery here in Columbus, but my work is sold everywhere in the world, whether that's online or in person, do I charge with a gallery percentage here or a gallery percentage somewhere else? If I'm taking home, these are all questions that you have to ask.
Yeah.
And the common public doesn't know that galleries typically take anywhere between 40 and 50% commission, which is crazy.
That is a ton.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, I get it, but still.
There's a hotly debated topic here. Galleries should earn their money just like as an artist, I should earn money, right? So they are entitled to making, if they sell your work, they should be entitled to make money off of that work that they provide. And they have a lot of overhead costs, electricity and rent, to name a few, but insurance is a secret little, you have to pay for insurance and all this work and whining and dining clients and all of that stuff. So they should earn commission, right? They work for it. But if it used to be, the older model was a gallery would typically sign 8 to 10 artists in what they used to call their stable. And I worked really hard to mitigate that term. Such a derogatory term. So let's call it their artist roster. They used to have 8 to 10 artists in their roster. And each artist would be given like a solo show once 1 month. And then there might be a holiday or a couple group shows though. And so in order to make money, they really had to sell only a small group of people's works. So a lot of efforts there.
Mm-hmm.
But if they have and they would have you sign an exclusivity contract.
Yeah.
And so you couldn't really sell outside of the gallery. If I know you personally and you see my work, I have to push you to the gallery, which then would take commission.
Yeah.
But now that the internet is there and there's a lot of online sales and the world is open on that front, it should be reevaluated.
Mhm.
If a gallery has 100 artists on their roster and you're signing an exclusivity clause with them, as an advocate for the artist, not the arts in general, but the artists themselves, I think an evaluation period needs to be done first. Like, I'll pay a lot of commission if they're bringing $200,000 to my door. I mean, geez. But if they sell something once every 10 months, is it good business to type an exclusivity contract?
Yeah.
You know?
No is the answer.
So
I agree.
so it's this tug and pull, I want the lifestyle and the life cycle of the gallery to exist. I want them to thrive. I want them to be able to exist another day, just like I do with the arts. But I do think a new education on how to market your work and how to sell the work and what is the commission doing. There are a lot of things that the gallery does on the artist's behalf because the artist simply doesn't want to. It takes a lot of time to be the business person, And if they have clients that they feed work and they have a ability to continue bringing those clients back, they've earned that right to make that money. It's maybe something that I could do. But if it's also somebody that I know personally in a small community after doing this for 20 years in this community, it makes you start to ask really tough questions,
Mhm.
Like, oh, I also know them. They knew me before you,
Yeah.
And so I do think there's a new period in the pricing of artwork that needs to be balancing the friendship between the gallery and the artist, balancing between the online sales and the global sales, the residency programs and the grants. It's so changing right now that I do think that it's time for a new conversation to be made that benefits everyone.
Yeah, and I think that's oddly, COVID has provided those spaces for those conversations to begin because we don't have anything else to do. So it's kind of been nice in a way to see how this wretched disease that keeps everybody away from each other. I'm not bitter at all, if you can tell.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. But no, I love it. Daric, thank you so much. We do have to wrap up, but this has been great just to chat and hang and talk creativity. I think I know for me, one of the things that's so hard to miss out on is just creative conversation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, it was a pleasure, and I'm really happy that you guys were able to make time in your day for me. So
absolutely. So people can check your stuff out online.
Yes, if you go to Daric Gill, that's DaricGill.com. You can see all of my work, and then the Columbus Museum of Art, they will be rolling out some programming as well in the future. You can, when they open back up, you can see 4 of my paintings that I've done, 3 of which were in Germany. One is about my experience in partnership with Cuba, and then I have a robotics installation there that's interactive, and I really think you should check that out. Also, if you are an artist and you are looking for a beginning and some tips and tricks along the way, feel free to check them out on my artist resource section. I don't get paid for any of that. That is simply just to help other artists try to make their way through this life.
As another artist, I can verify it is not the easiest thing to get started. So any advice you can find out there, resources, go. Just take all the advice. Yes.
Thanks for providing. That makes.
And I should also.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, and I should also say a big thank you to both the Columbus Museum of Art, the Greater Columbus Arts Council, and the Ohio Arts Council. The Ohio Arts Council and the GCAC, they also have very valuable artist resources. I'm not driving anyone just to me. I want anyone who has options to have options, so.
And they made our theater last, so we're thankful for them as well. Very much so. We love you. Well, Daric, thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you guys too.
It's a good reminder. I got to take the bird out today, so this is good timing. This worked out well. But anyway, thank you for
Awesome.
thank you for listening to Speak Easily with Krista Stoffer. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, computer. Like Google it. Go to Google.
On computers. We are on
On
computers.
We're on computers. We could have a Hotmail.
Bacon. The,
AOL
what was the
account.
delicious breakfast
Okay,
thing?
now no. Now you're just mocking. So
I
okay.
know. I do that.
But join us on any of those platforms. You can. There's the seltzer water. Sorry. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram. I'm trying Twitter. I really don't like it. I don't get it. Nobody needs to know.
I this morning I was going through Twitter and I was like, God, I haven't really committed myself to this 100%. I'm gonna probably dive a little bit harder.
We're gonna dive in.
Also, partly because there's a lot of people that are on Facebook that are not on Twitter, and that's an appealing thing to me. Honestly, it's, oh, you're not there, huh? Cool. So
Like it all.
Yeah, it's weird. People get really religious about which like media platform they prefer the most. So
Yeah. I'm a big MySpace fan, so
Fair.
that works out.
oh, you're the one.
Friendface or something, right?
What is
Friendster.
Friendster? Oh yeah.
Friendster.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever did that one.
I worked with a guy years ago who created his own social network site called YouFace, and I was like, I don't know, that one's gonna catch on, pal. But
Yeah.
you know,
Please tell me it was like NUE face, like
it
different
was
spelling. And
YOUFACE, and it was like YouTube and Facebook, but YouFace, and it was like,
You're such a you face.
I'm pretty. You know what? I should probably look that up right now. It might be
Let's
huge.
see.
So
It could
I'm I think it might be what I call people when I can't remember their names, like you face.
be. You might wanna,
hey, YouFace. Yeah.
you know, if it is successful, Daric, you're about to get sued for calling people that. So yeah, we may want to check up on how popular YouFace has become.
Yeah, hey, I'm gonna start. If it's not successful, I'm gonna do the U with the umlauts, the 2 dots,
Your
and then
face.
face. Your face, yeah.
YOO, but the second O has the umlauts. Yes. And then
Yeah.
ACE with the squiggle above it. Yes.
Hey, if YouFace is a popular thing, I'm always willing to share more on my artwork on YouFace. So
Next
this is an unsponsored thing for YouFace.
Hey, thanks to our YouFace community out
Yes,
there.
thank
We really
you.
appreciate you joining us today.
We love you, face.
Keep on YouFacing, you know?
Yeah, YouFace.
Ooh,
Sorry.
That slogan.
YouFace. All right, guys. Well, I also probably have to run. Gotta get out of here.
All right.
Thanks, Daric.
Have a great day. Bye.
Boxland Media. Think big.